Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Chris Johnson. You are now tuned in to KJ Live. Riveting interview with the star of Last Chance U, Coach John Mosley. Up next, we have one of the eyes of Southern California grassroots basketball. He is responsible for sending thousands of young men on to the next level and affecting their life in a positive fashion. He is an accomplished coach, having won 10 national championships on the AAU level, and he's quite frankly one of the best to ever do it anywhere in the country. Chris Johnson Live is proud to welcome Pat Barrett, PB, to the show. Let's get PB up in here, Southern California All-Stars, so we can chop it up with Pat. Let's see if we can get him in here. Let's see where he's at. Requested once again, guys. I think this one should do the trick. SoCal All-Stars unable to join. I'll just keep requesting you guys. We'll get this figured out. It may take a couple of times, guys, so we're going to stay patient. Just try to accept my request to join. This is Chris Johnson. You're now tuned in to KJ Live. Today's guest on the show will be Pat Barrett, legendary coach of Southern California All-Stars. Not just the coach, the founder of the program. Started this stuff way back when. We're going to find out about his roots, as a player and as a coach, some of his mentors, and talk about some of the players, the NBA guys, the D1 guys that have played for him and the lives that he's affected over the course of the last 40 years in basketball. Truly one of the most legendary figures in the history of Southern California. So it says PB says you guys are unable to join. I'm going to call you guys now. We're going to get on the horn. We're going to figure this out. Let's see.
Okay, we're on. Hey, Pat.
Okay, got it. Looks like we've got it. PB.
Chris, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you? Oh, there you are.
I heard my phone ring. It was you, but I'm not real good with this technology stuff, so.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
I'm an old school guy.
I know. Hey, we're very patient around these parts. We've been waiting for this interview for a while, and thank you so much for granting us this access to you. I know you don't do a lot of these, PB, so we're truly appreciative. We wanted to give our audience sort of just an understanding of your career, your history in Southern California, but most of all, I want to know where you got started, and that's kind of where I want to start off. Where were you born and raised, PB, and talk a little bit about your early beginnings in the game of basketball.
Well, I was born in Kalamazoo, Michigan, back in 1954, a long time ago. I'm 66 and moved out to Southern California when I was 9 years old with my mom and my twin brother, and I've been out here ever since in Orange County.
Yep.
And I went to, I played Pop Warner football, Little League baseball, and basketball and everything. And I went to Magnolia High School in Anaheim.
Okay.
And over by Disneyland. And I graduated in 1972. And then I went on to Cypress Junior College. At that time, junior college was the thing to do.
Yeah.
Because freshmen couldn't play varsity basketball in college.
Right.
Up on the freshman team. So JC basketball was really hopping and off the charts then, and great talent. And I went and played in that at Cypress Junior College for the legendary coach Don Johnson, who was UCLA's first All-American under Coach Wooden.
Wow. His pictures up in our locker room.
Yeah, he's up there. He's 1952.
Wow.
He was All-American at UCLA. And so Coach Johnson was coach of Cypress College. I played there 2 years.
Okay.
And I got a scholarship to San Jose State. Graduated in 74 out of Cypress. Then I went to San Jose State in 1974 to 76 and played 2 years with San Jose State. And then after that got done, I had a cup of coffee with the Portland Trailblazers for some tryouts and stuff. And then one of the owners of the Trailblazers at the time was a guy named Art Kim. And he owned the team that played against the Globetrotters.
The Generals?
The Generals and the California Chiefs. There's a couple of names.
Yeah.
So I went on a tour with the Globetrotters and traveled with them all over the world for 3 years. Was all over Australia, New Zealand, Japan, China, Russia, all through Europe. The season was 9 months long. We were overseas 6 of the 9 months, and we played every day. Got paid for playing, and it was a show. Obviously for the Globetrotters, but I got paid to play and got to see the world for free. Yeah, so I did that for 3 years, and then I got to take a couple of my friends with me. The last year I did it on the tour and had a great time. And then I got back in the United States and got into high school coaching basketball. Okay, PB, I love what you said in your 40-year anniversary video about your experience playing with the Generals. You wanted to start a program where you can get some wins, because you had been losing your whole life. You're like, man, I want to just get some wins. So I thought that was a real funny moment. You had me rolling on that one. Well, I figured for 3 years I lost every day to the Globetrotters. So I figured with my AU program, I'm kind of about 500 right now. Exactly. That had me rolling. Talk about, so now you did the Globetrotters thing. What made you decide to get into the youth basketball? I mean, so it was high school basketball, then the youth basketball. What made you decide to get into that game? Well, when I came back, I've done playing, and I still wanted to continue to get into coaching. So what I did is I started down at Capistrano Valley High School down in Mission Viejo. Wow, Capo Valley. And I started down there, and I was the head freshman coach and a varsity assistant. And during that time, when I was down there, Chris, a AAU program used to come in and use the gym after I got done. But I had the freshman team, so we were the last ones to get the gym. Yeah. So at night, from 7 to 8 o'clock at night, Gary McKnight and South Coast program came in to use our gym because we got done. And I formed a relationship with Gary, and one thing led to another, and he asked me to help him coach and his AU program. And I was, 25, 26 years old. I was young, enthusiastic, had a lot of energy. And so after my practices with the freshman team, and I had the varsity practice earlier in the afternoon, I had my third practice with South Coast travel team, and I was there till 10 o'clock every night. And Gary and I became best friends, and I've known Gary for over 45 years now. And the rest is history, as they say. But the rest is history. And so I coached down there for 2 years, and then when Gary got the job at Modern Day in '82, I went over there with him to start the program. They wanted a national powerhouse program at the time. They had not been winning on a consistent basis like they wanted to. Sure. So they hired Gary, and we brought a lot of the players in. Was that LaRon Ellis era? No, that was Matt Beazard and Tom Lewis's era. Tom Lewis. Oh yeah. 1982. Ooh. At that time, so I went over there with Modern Day with Gary and started the program over there with him. And brought a lot of our players there with us. I was coaching an AAU program at the time too, high school kids. A kid back from Los Altos High School, a player named Mike Smith. And Mike Smith is BYU, and for years the Clipper announcer on TV with the Utah Jazz. But I used to have workouts and practices and games at Mater Dei. And Mike Smith was ended up being my first pro player that I ever had coached. But the years at Mater Dei was Matt Beezert, who was a McDonald All-American who went to Notre Dame and then transferred to Cal. And then Tom Lewis, who went to USC and then transferred to Pepperdine, where his relationship with Harry became real strong. And I was there for 3 years, from 82 to 85. We won championships every year, the 3 years, first time anybody's ever done it in Orange County. Back then, Chris, it was 4A, 3A, 2A, and 1A. There wasn't 15 divisions. It meant something back then because your first and second round games were barn burners because they had all the best teams in it. And the year that we started, the best team in Southern California that year was St. Bernard's. And they had 4 or 5 Division I players. They had Chris Washington, Izzy Washington's son. They had a kid named Thompson who went to Arizona State. So they had a heck of a team, and we won the CF championship the first year we were there. The games then were played at the Long Beach Arena, where they got 16, 17, 18,000 fans. And we beat Long Beach Poly in a championship game in Long Beach at the arena. And then the next couple of years we won also. And then after 85, it wasn't for me. It wasn't paying enough money. So I went back and did during that whole time I was doing my AU program anyway. Whole time to do my AU program, and I've been doing my AU program, Southern California All Stars, since 1979.
Okay, so just to stay on that 80s era of high school basketball in LA, did you guys play Crenshaw at all during that time?
Yes, we did. We the most memorable game with Crenshaw was besides yourself, the best player they probably ever had was a kid named John Williams.
Woo! Big John. Yeah, they known as, they called him hot plate later in life. PB, talk about though the early John Williams, the monster that John Williams was in high school.
Well, he was a man playing with boys. He was a full-grown man, wide shoulders, really a nice kid. I remember Izzy Washington ran the Slam and Jam spring league at Dominguez High School for all those years, and we got there early one time, and Izzy Washington was pulling out bleachers for the fans to sit in, and John was out there helping them, and that's the type of kid he was. And he was helping Izzy set the gym up. He was the best player that I've seen, for a long time. John was just a man-child at that time. We played him at Cal Poly Pomona, and we had about 8,000 fans there, jam-packed. And it was a tournament of champions, the old tournament of champions, where they had 16 best teams in Southern California square off. And we played them in the finals, and we beat them in overtime with John Williams. It was quite an accomplishment. After the game was over, we had a midnight flight back to DeMatha in Washington to play DeMatha High School.
Morgan Wooten.
Yeah, Morgan Wooten and a guy named Ferry. I'm trying to think. Danny Ferry, yes. We went back to the D.C. and for 2-3 days play some games back there. But that game at Cal Poly Pomona was unbelievable. It was jam-packed. Every basketball yahoo was there. The two best teams squaring off, and we beat them in overtime. But it was unbelievable because John was just unstoppable. He was just such a big, he'd go inside, outside, handle the ball. Just a really outstanding player. Like a man-child at that age. And the best player I've seen in Southern California over all these years for a long, long time. He was pretty special.
Let's fast forward to the early 90s, around 1990. What were you doing, Pat, in the year 1990? Were you in heavy deep with SoCal All-Stars?
Yes, I coached. I was working for a friend that owned several properties, and I'm a Hilton and Towers, and the Hawaii Hilton and stuff like that.
Oh.
And I was with him all the time, and he talked me into coaching young kids again, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And I said, no, I'm doing high school right now, modern day, and doing the youth program at the high school level. But he funded the whole situation. His name was Stan Castleton.
Of course. Of course.
His son David played at Modern Day and stuff like that. And so Stan funded the whole program for many years. And I was doing a sixth grade 12 and under team, which his son was part of at the time. And my two best players at that time was a kid named Shea Cotton, who was the second man child I've ever seen.
Wait, hold on, PB, hold on. Let me just interject. So first time I saw Shea, it was out at ARC League in Montclair Prep. I don't know if you were coaching that team, but he was a seventh grader. He was playing at Goldberg's ARC League. I walk in the gym, and I was attending Montclair Prep at the time. I walk in the gym. He's in the air, tip dunking on a whole team. I'm just like, wow, who's that? Who's that old high school kid? I'm like, how old is that guy? They were like, seventh grade. I was like, PB, talk about Shea. He's going to be on the show at 5. Talk about Shea Cotton, please.
Well, Shea Cotton was arguably the best player during his high school and youth days that I've ever had. I mean, every time Shea played, you could put 30 points next to his name before the game started, and he'd get 30 plus. I had him as a sixth grader at 12 and under, and we went to another player that joined us too, because Shea joined us, was Jason Hart, who is the head assistant at USC.
Baby J.
And they play Gonzaga tonight in the Elite Eight. But Jason was my point guard, and Shea was my scorer. And in 89, 90, we went to the national tournament, AAU, in Salt Lake City, and won the national championship.
Wow.
It was our first time we did that. And Shea was, like I said, a sixth grader. And then I had him all the way through high school. We won 2 more national championships with Shea. But Shea was left-handed, built like John Williams, where he just was a man playing against boys. He jumped out of the gym in 6th and 7th grade. He was catching alley-oops, tipped up. We were throwing him lobs.
I know.
And stuff like that. People always question, he's too old.
Whatever.
He's a high school kid. His mom and dad, James Cotton and Senior, and Gainell Cotton, used to bring his birth certificate at all the tournaments, when people questioned they had to.
Yeah.
But Shea was offensively very, very efficient and very ahead of his time.
Yeah.
And, during his high school years, he was the national #1 player in the country.
Yep.
And cover Sports Illustrated.
Yep. And the thing about it, during that era of basketball, PB, is like, I was over with my dad and we were over on that side of things, but he got me with Bob Gottlieb early. Yeah. So I was playing with Orange County PTI, where I had Doug, Miles Simon, Darren Height, Mike Jackson, a bunch of guys. So I'd go down to OC, we practiced down there, be hanging out with Gottlieb and this and that, but I'd always run, through tournaments and stuff. I'd always see you guys, and I kind of developed this camaraderie with the OC crew. Like, I always had this thing with you guys, kind of like, because I grew up, playing against you guys and stuff like that. Talk about just Orange County basketball, where it started and how it's just grown into, one of the biggest deals going.
Well, when we first started, Orange County basketball had never won a Division 4A, the top Division CIF championship. In modern day, when we did it in 82, 83 was the first year they've ever done that. And so modern day, being a powerhouse for the last 40 some years in Orange County, has really developed the basketball in Orange County, and everybody had to catch up to modern day. So a lot of your high school coaches, instead of playing golf and vacationing and stuff like that, they had to work with their kids and get them better, because they had to play against the modern days of the world.
Oh, yeah.
In LA, you had the Crenshaws, you had the Dominguezes, you had the Artesias,
yeah.
You had, Fairfax, you had Westchester, you had the the national teams already, but
Yeah.
Orange County started late, and it actually started with Gary McKnight in 1982.
Yeah.
And so now it's with modern day still performing and doing well in high school, and Gary's been there, 40 plus years. It's basketball has really taken off. There's more kids playing now. There's more gyms open. I mean, down in Orange County right now, Chris, there was 4 huge gyms that people came to for tournaments all the time.
Sure.
The Ladero Sports Center, the MAP, and American Sports Center.
Sports Center. Yeah.
They had the facilities that everybody came from LA and
Yeah.
San Diego and San Bernardino and everywhere to come to these tournaments. They had 4 warehouses that they turned into gyms, and that's where all the tournaments were.
It's been amazing to watch the evolution of the OC and the IE, the Riverside area too. It's like so many, because pros. My thing is pros, and when you start seeing pros coming from these areas, PB, you know that area is doing something right. Staying on the 90s though, let's move to around 92, 93. I was at Crenshaw High School. Modern Day obviously was one of the top teams in the country. We transferred in 11 players in 1992-93 season, I believe, just from all over the place. Coach West was working. Coach West was working, trying to keep up with y'all. Talk about just what you remember from that era of 92-93 when Crenshaw was great. Modern Day was #1. Talk about that era a little bit.
Well, I remember Modern Day and Crenshaw. It was like now in football, Modern Day and St. John Bosco is going to square off for the big one. And it's just a matter of time when, in the regular season game or in the playoffs or championship. And I remember watching you in Crenshaw High School at the Pond in Anaheim. And I think your junior year, you made a great finger roll and beat Modern Day. And those games always went down the wire. They were great games. Modern Day was battling Crenshaw. They were battling Artesia.
Yes.
Battling Dominguez. They played everybody and anybody at that time. And the 90s was pretty special because I was still doing AAU.
Yeah.
Basketball at the time. I did young kids, and then each year I moved up a year. First year, like I said, with Shea, I did a 12 and under. The next year I did a 13 and a 12. Then the next year I did a 14, 13, and 12. I used to, Chris, coach the teams, train them, pick guys up.
Wow.
Do everything, go to the uniforms. I was a one-man show.
Yeah.
And then later on in the years, I got some really good coaches that helped me from the LA area. And we had quite a few Orange County kids, but we had a lot of LA kids too.
Sure.
Because LA coaches came to coach with us. But the 90s was rock and roll. And during the 90s, Chris, I don't mean to brag, but during the 90s, we played Southern California All-Stars, played for 10 national championships in AAU from 90 to 2000. And it just grew, and we were winning, and everybody wanted to play with us. And
yeah,
I had one team, and for a while there, I had 10 teams. I had kids from 4th grade all the way through high school.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the other day, Eric Mobley and I were talking about his 2 sons start off in our program.
Did they?
Back when they were 4th and 5th graders.
Jeez. Yeah.
And I didn't even recognize them because we were at Ocean View High School. For years, we used to practice at Long Beach City College. Got in there all the time for about 10 years. And then we went to Ocean View High School, and we used all 3 courts. And we had so many kids and parents and teams. It was just rock and roll. It just grew and grew and grew and grew. And at that time, Chris, I had a Nike sponsorship.
Yeah.
So I got I started off with that with Sonny Vaccaro back in the early 80s.
Wow.
When I left Modern Day in 85, I sat with Sonny and Gary McKnight up in Santa Monica and did the Modern Day deal on a napkin. Sonny said, just write down what you want on a napkin. And he said, we'll start this contract. And Modern Day's been with Nike ever since 85.
Old school. Old school. That's the old school way of doing it.
Yeah. He went for a sandwich and put on a napkin, said, write down what you need on a napkin.
That's awesome.
And also at the same time, I started the Nike Extravaganza, which has been going on for 30 plus years.
Wait, you started that, PB?
I started out when I was with Nike. I had the vision of bringing the East Coast Powers to play the West Coast Powers. And the first year I had it at UC Irvine. The first year I did it, and I had Oak Hill out here playing Mater Dei. We had Crenshaw, we had Dominguez, we had St. John's from DC. So it was my vision to do that, and I did it for the first 2 years. We sold out the arena, 5,000-6,000 people. It's still right now the 1 day single best event in Southern California.
No question.
There's other tournaments that are good.
Yeah.
This is not a tournament. This is a 1 day event.
Yeah.
Mater Dei had done so well with it. They made it a 2 day event, Friday and all day Saturday. The place is packed. They sell out. They bring all the best teams from the East back. Mater Dei got Nike involved, and and I had to step out of it after 2 years because the CAF rules had changed that an individual running an AAU program couldn't run events and make money off it to sponsor my AAU team. And so I turned it over to Mater Dei for them to do it as a school fundraiser. And they took it to another level with all the connections they had in the fundraiser. And so they've been doing it ever since then.
No, that's really cool stuff. Your fingerprints are all over this stuff. And again, something that we didn't know. This is Chris Johnson live. I'm on live with Southern California grassroots basketball icon, Pat Barrett. PB, talk about that time you guys beat LeBron. Didn't you guys beat LeBron in the championship?
Yes, and 14 and under, 8th grade.
Yeah.
Orlando, Florida at Disney World. And in the semifinals, which at that time, their names didn't mean much to me at all because they're all 8th graders. But we beat a Chris Paul team in the semis to get to the championship game against a team from Ohio that featured LeBron James. And in the movie that he has, we were in that movie for about 2 or 3 minute segment of showing that game and the highlights and everything. But we beat LeBron James on the last second shot he took from half court that just rimmed off the rim, and we beat him for the national championship at 14 and under. And a few years later, we were at Sonny Vaccaro's big time tournament, and one of the Nike representatives came in the gym, and they had two players with them because they had USA basketball in Vegas at the same time. Yeah. Named Lynn Barrett. So Lynn waved at me to come over, and I went over there, and some tall guy had a hat pulled over and sunglasses on. I didn't know who he was. And Chris Paul sat there and said, "Hey, I remember, and Chris Paul was amazing. He knew all the players' names still on our team. And he goes, you beat us in the semis, and you beat this guy in the finals." I looked over, and it was LeBron. LeBron gave me a high five. I said, "LeBron, don't worry. I shine that silver ball every day."
What was his game like? What was his game like in the 8th grade, PB?
He was good. He must have about 25 on us. He was quick.
Handling, point guard.
He wasn't LeBron like he is now with the dunks, and that stuff. But at that time, when you say LeBron James, was like saying, John, Pete Williams. And I mean, it didn't ring a bell.
Yeah.
I don't know who he was.
Yeah.
But a year or two after that, in high school, he started making his name for himself, and it escalated to where he is today.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But I look back at that situation when we met him in Orlando for the AU National Championship, and we beat him in the finals, and beating Chris Paul in the semis and LeBron in the finals was pretty special.
That is special. Let's fast forward to 2006. Arguably your best team, correct? 48-0.
I don't think so, but I think the 86 team, and you'll remember all these guys. We won the national championship in '86. Yeah, and I had on that team 8 pros out of 10 players. I had. Who? And my starting lineup with a kid, 7'3" kid named Dwayne Shinsis from Florida. And back then the rules were different. So I used to go to Nike camp every summer and recruit my team for the summer and pick guys out. So I got Dwayne Shinsis from Florida as my center. My power forward was Trevor Wilson from UCLA that played with the Lakers. My small forward was Sean Higgins from Fairfax, who played at Michigan and played in the NBA. My shooting guard was a kid named Stevie Thompson, who went to Syracuse, played in the NBA a little bit, and now the assistant coach at Oregon State.
Ethan's dad.
Ethan's dad. That was my shooting guard. And my point guard was a kid from New Orleans, a guy named Dwayne Bryant. Went to Georgetown.
Okay.
And he played in the NBA. So those were my 5 starters.
Wow.
My bench, arguably, might have been better than my starters.
Who you had?
My bench at that time. So there's 5 NBA players.
Yeah.
My bench was a guy named Don McClain, who was at UCLA.
Donnie Mack coming off the bench?
Came off the bench, Don McClain. And he all-time leading scorer in the Pac-12 history.
Man, please.
UCLA. I had a kid named Derek Martin, who went to UCLA, my backup point guard. And I had a kid named Chris Mills, who went to Fairfax, who went to Kentucky, and played in the NBA. So I had those 8 guys who made it to the NBA, and we were all on one team. And my 2 subs had great college careers and made some money over in Europe. A kid named James Moses out of Sarah High School in Gardena.
Okay.
I went to Iowa. And named Eric Bamberger, about 6'8" kid.
Bamberger.
From Northern California. So that 86 team was loaded. And in the finals, we beat Rex Chapman's team for the national championship out of Kentucky and Felton Spencer for the national championship in Vegas in the old Vegas national tournament that John Farrell used to run for years. And we won it in the Thomas and Mack Arena. And the 86 team was, I think, my best team of all time. But the 2016 you're talking about end up being the number 1 team that everybody rated number 1. When the first team that ever went through the whole season, spring and summer, undefeated. We went like 48-0. And the significance of that, Chris, was back in the 2006, there was no shoe company teams. So when you went to tournaments, everybody was there. Adidas teams, Nike teams, Reebok teams.
Oh, yeah. No circuit stuff going on and separations and all that.
No separation. So it wasn't like, well, we played all Nike teams and we won the national championship. No, we played everybody. And that team, I had Kevin Love from Portland. And I'll tell you a funny story on that. He went to ABCD camp when he was in high school. And then Nike got mad at him because they wanted him to go to their camp. Camp.
Yes.
So he went to ABCD camp.
Yeah.
They kicked him off the Nike team up in Portland. And so a gentleman named Steve King, Taylor King's father, who was playing with me, who went to Mater Dei, went to Duke and Villanova. His dad had called me and said, hey, he goes, I got Stan Love sitting right next to me. He goes, I think we can grab this guy. And so I talked to Stan, flew up to Oregon and met him, and the deal was done. We got Kevin Love. At that time, the rules were differently. You had to be from the board of the same state or Bornley State. So I had Kevin Love. I had Ronaldo Sidney, the 6'10" kid out of Mississippi who came out to L.A.
Who, by the way, PB, in high school was one of the most talented guys I'd ever seen at that age. Also, let's be real.
Oh yeah, he was ranked number 1 player in the country, and stuff like that. At that time, we also had Brennan Jennings, who was National Player of the Year from Dominguez, who went to Oak Hill, and number 10 pick in the draft.
Oh yeah.
We had our shooters were a kid named Malik Story.
Oh yeah.
Who set all the records over at Nevada.
Shout out to Kenny Story. Shout out Kenny.
Shout out to Kenny, my main guy. I've been with him for over 20 years. And we had Daniel Hackett, who was at St. John Bosco, who went to USC. We had Taj Gibson, who is still playing in the NBA today. We had a kid named Chris Budinger, who went to Arizona from San Diego. It was just a loaded team. Taylor King, who went to Duke, and then we went to Villanova after that. Yeah. So that was our 2016. and it was very talented kid. Good friend of mine, Jody Gardner, coached the team
Of course.
for several years. Who's coaching at Fairmont Prep right now.
He's got some players out there. He's got some dudes.
He got some guys.
Yeah.
Always have players.
Yes, sir.
You got to have players to win, Chris.
You know the deal.
You got to have players. And but the significant thing at that time was there was no shoe company leagues, and then also they had what they called the super pools. So what happened was when we played in the tournament, they put the best 4 teams in the tournament in Pool A, and you played everybody. And then they divided up after the pool play got done in the bracket play. So we beat the teams in pool play, the best teams in the tournament, and then we had to beat them again in the quarters, semis, and finals again. So we had to beat some of the better teams twice. Every tournament for 5 tournaments.
That's tough.
And so we had no easy, and they did that. Sonny Vaccaro and Chris Rivers came up with that idea for the college coaches and recruiters and media. Prime time
matchups.
Yeah, so you don't go to the first game and see someone by 80, and you get nothing out of it. And
nothing.
It's not fun. So every game we played back in 2006 was a barn burner. It was a good game. There was no easy games, and that was the team that went undefeated. In 5-Star magazine from the East Coast back in New York, had a huge article about us as being the greatest AU team of all time. I didn't say it. The media here in LA didn't say it, but nationally they said it.
Yeah.
And which carries a lot of weight. And so I think even today, with the criteria of the super pools and no shoe company, I mean, teams are now, if they win the best team and they're in the Adidas circuit, all they do is play Adidas teams. They don't play Nike teams. They don't play Under Armour teams. They don't play anybody else. So it's kind of hard to get a judge of who's the best team. You got to see them play each other.
Yeah.
And we did that in 2006.
Nice.
But the 2000 team, I had 4 McDonald Americans on it at one time.
Who?
And so those were the 3 greatest teams. The guys at that time were a kid named Tyson Chandler out of Dominguez.
The number 2 pick of the draft.
And had a 19-year career in the NBA.
Jeez, 19.
We had a kid named Joel Sampson, played about 8 years in the
Yes. Yes.
We had a kid named Josh Childress, who went to Stanford, who played 10 years with Atlanta Hawks.
That's crazy.
We had a kid named Cedric Bozeman who went to UCLA out of high school, and he played. So we had 4 guys who made it to the NBA and 4 McDonald Americans on the same team. Usually, if you have 1 McDonald American, you think you're successful.
Right.
2 is unheard of. We had 4 for several years on the same team. So when you look at the 86 team with the 8 pros out of 10, you look at the 2000 team with 4 McDonald Americans on it, and then you look at the 2006 team that you're talking about, went undefeated and pool play and won the championships. I guess everybody can pick who they like.
It's hard to reconcile not having the 86 team as number 1. You're talking about 7'2", 6'9", 6'9", then your 2 and your 1, and then Don McClain coming off the bench. I'm done. It's 86, bro. It's 86, PB. That's ludicrous. I mean, think about your lineup. I mean, you're Chris Mills. Come on, Derek Martin coming up, 14-year pro coming off the bench. Get out of here. It's 86. It's 86. PB. Let's move on to quick story about Daniel Hackett. So his dad Rudy, who played at Syracuse back in the day, so he brought Daniel. So Daniel, when he first came, he came from Italy, and he didn't speak much. He spoke English, but he still had the accent. Do you remember that, PB?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And what happened, Chris, is Tim Floyd, who got the USC job, did the best thing that I think that anybody's ever done. When he got the SC job, Daniel Hackett was at St. John Bosco. And Rudy Hackett, his dad, was helping us coach and train and loosen the guys up, and not like a semi-trainer type of kid. And what happened when Tim Floyd got the job at USC, which was very smart for him to do, I had lunch with him. The first guy I met with was Tim Floyd. And he said, Pat, he said, listen, I'm not from Southern California, but he goes, I want to be successful. I want pros. You got the best program. He said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire one coach from pump and run team. I'm going to hire one coach from SCA on my staff. And he said, that way I'm logged in to Southern California and we're ready to rock and roll. So Rudy Hackett was my coach that I recommended for him to hire, and he hired him at USC, and that's where Daniel went.
Daniel used to come up to UCLA Men's Gym with us early when he first came to LA, and as a 12, 13-year-old was hanging with us, was playing with the older guys. Daniel Hackett is pound for pound. He's a very good basketball player. He's had an extremely good career overseas. I always thought would love to see him in the league to get a chance to play, you know what I mean? But he's had a long career. He's a gamer, high level Europe every year. You know what I mean?
I think he's making over $1 million a year.
Oh, yeah.
Playing Italy. After he got done at SC, he went back to Italy and
Yeah.
been playing for basketball ever since then.
That's awesome.
But Tim Floyd used to call me at midnight several times, and what are you doing, Barrett? He goes, I'm up having a piece and a beer. What are you sleeping for? I'm here in the office working. But probably one of the best relationships I've had. But Tim Floyd was smart because he wanted to make inroads with Southern California that he never been to.
Very smart.
So he hired Gib Arnold from the pump and run team.
Oh, Gib. Okay.
And he hired Rudy Hackett from Southern California All-Stars, and he was off and running.
Yep, that's how you get it done. PB, talk about just coming up in the game, the Southern California grassroots game. Your contemporaries, Izzy Washington, Rich Goldberg, these type of names. And later on, the Pumps. Recently, Atope and a bunch of other guys. Just talk about that, the Southern California grassroots landscape, what you've experienced, what you've learned through the years, and if you have any regrets about anything.
Yeah. Well, when I first started, Izzy Washington from Slam and Jam and Rich Goldberg from ARC were the two top dogs. Yeah. They had the two best programs. You either played for one or the other. And there's a lot of secondary programs that, the Junior Lakers and B-Ball and different teams that played also. But those were the two top programs. Izzy Washington was sponsored by Reebok. And Rich Goldberg was sponsored by Nike. So, those were where everybody played. And Izzy Washington used to run, was really the Godfather with him and Rich. Rich is still living and still doing.
Oh yeah. I've been out there in Northridge. I've been to his stuff.
Oh, yeah. He does tournaments. He doesn't do the elite teams anymore, but he does tournaments and camps and different things. So Rich is still doing it. But those were the original two Godfathers that I grew up with and learned so much from. I mean, Izzy used to run the Slam and Jam Spring League at Dominguez High School. He used to run the tournament during the summer at Long Beach State. Yep. I mean, Izzy ran tournaments. He ran AAU for years out here. It was those two, one or the other. So I learned so much from them. When I did my own team, I tried to assimilate what they're doing and learn from them.
Absolutely.
Because they're the top dogs and they're the best at what they're doing. And that's what I did. Yeah. Nowadays, I've been doing it for 42 years, since 1979. And we've had 54 NBA players that were gay. We've had over 500 players make it to Division I colleges with scholarships. So we kind of, I've been doing it for a long, long time, a lot longer than Izzy and Washington and Rich Goldberg did. But I've been doing the high school level. So we've been real fortunate to have the best of the best, and we're still doing it. I mean, a lot of people say, well, Southern California All-Stars back in the day was good. Well, right now, Chris,
talk about it.
Brag a little bit. We've had 5 NBA players in the last 5 years get drafted in the NBA. And we haven't had a shoe sponsor for the last 10 years. So
who are the 5? Who are the 5, PB?
The 5 guys, and I got a little list here, so I don't forget everybody.
Yes, sir.
The 5 list is DeLon Wright, who went to
Utah. Yep.
and played NBA today.
Nice.
Jordan Bell, Long Beach Poly, Oregon,
Absolutely.
in the NBA. Christian Wood.
Oh, yeah. That's what I saw on your website. I was like, how did PB have Christian Wood? How did you talk about that, PB?
I'll tell you that story in a minute. but that's number 3, Christian Wood.
Yeah.
Anthony Brown from Ocean View High School.
Stanford.
Played with the Lakers. And KZ Apala.
Yeah, I love him.
With the Miami Heat right now. And he went to Stanford. So there's 5 guys that Southern California All-Stars has had the last 5 years, still producing NBA players that add to the 54, numbers of lists. And I think the next one coming up will be Ian Martinez from Utah.
I like him a lot.
And he came from Costa Rica, and he's been with us all the way through his AAU career. So, we had Cassius Stanley, who started off with us when he was young.
Sure.
Drafted last year, by Indiana.
Yeah.
We Ethan Thompson had the chance to be drafted this year.
Oh, yeah.
Him and his brother started off with us. Stevie played with us. The coaches, the college coaches at the time, Chris, that coached with me and went on to college has been Jason Hart, Steve at USC, Stevie Thompson,
Oregon State,
Oregon State, Reggie Theus, who played in the NBA.
He's been head coach 2 or 3 times. Coached with Patino. Yeah.
And he coached the NBA with the Sacramento Kings. Mike Hopkins, who
head coach at Washington.
Head coach at Washington. Tom Lewis has been 20-year coach in college at New Mexico State and Long Beach State, and Rudy Hackett. Yeah. So these are the guys that coached with me that have moved on to Division I basketball and been very successful.
Absolutely.
How I got Christian Wood is a funny story. Kenny Story, who's been my right-hand man for the last 20 years of recruiting and doing everything for me, I couldn't do it without him. He said, hey, he goes, Dino Turgonis is running a shooting camp at Dominguez Hills College. He said, let's go by and see if we can see anybody. I said, shooting camp. So we went by, and here was this 6'8" kid out there shooting. Christian Wood was in the camp. And he stuck out because all the other kids were all guard size, 6 foot, 6'2", 6'3", and here's Christian, 6'8", and he was shooting the ball really well. And I said, that's a kid we need to get. And so his uncle was there, and we talked with his uncle, and one thing led to another, and he used to come down from Palmdale, Peak Night High School, all the time down to Orange County into LA for tournaments and games that we played in. And Chris was with us for 3 years in AAU basketball. And
wow.
Now he's been in the league, I think, 4, 5, 6 years now. He's signed a $41 million contract.
Yeah, he's one of the top young talents going.
And has a great success story of where he started off, went to UNLV, transferred to Findlay Prep when Findlay Prep was gone. Just a great story that he has. He has a great mom in Jeanette, and a great uncle in Derek that took him everywhere. So you never know where you go see a player. You don't. That's why you always got to go. You always got to show up, PB. I go all the high school games. I go all these camps. I go everywhere. And the thing is, Chris, even if I don't see a player, I might learn an out-of-bounds play from somebody or a play like, hey, that's pretty good play. And so I've been doing it for so long, whether it's a camp or a tournament or leagues, and I'm watching games, I'm always trying to learn something. I can attest to that. Every time I've ran into you over the last 25 years or so in gyms, we always strike up a conversation. You always start breaking down what we're seeing on the floor. You talk about players. It's just like we're just basketball people, and you're just talking about. It trips me out because that's what we do, and we've done it. And I've always respected that, and I just love running into you when I have over the years because we just have the purest basketball conversations that I ever had. But PB, I got probably one more question for you, and then I'm gonna let you go. Well, actually two. I want to know how you got Klay Thompson.
How did you get Clay?
Clay Thompson, Jordy Gardner was our coach in our team, and he also does some training and shooting coach. Well, I had Mikey Thompson, his brother, played with us on that 2016.
Oh, yeah.
And to tell you a funny story, Clay came along with the package. So Clay Thompson and again, Josh Childers, when they first came on my team, Chris, ended up being on our second team. They're on our second team, and they weren't good enough for our first team.
Who was on the first team?
Well, the 2016 we had.
Okay.
Kevin Love and all them.
Yeah.
But Clay wasn't good enough.
Wow.
He was a good high school player.
Yeah.
He was turned out to be a fabulous pro and
sure.
one of the best shooters of all time.
Yep.
But same thing with Josh Childers. When he first came with us, he was on our second team, and they developed into what they are today. Childers playing a 10-year pro, and Clay Thompson being one of the best players in the league. But that's how we got Clay, and he was with us for a couple of years during that hot run that we had with the undefeated team in 2006.
Yeah.
And that's how we got Clay Thompson. And the thing, Chris, I want to give a shout out to a couple guys.
Yeah.
The last 10 years, we haven't been sponsored, but I've had a couple gentlemen that their sons played with me that came in and sponsored the program financially. And that was a gentleman named Brian Friedman, whose son, Spencer Friedman, who's at Harvard right now. And then a gentleman named Barry Brooker, who's currently sponsoring our team, and his son is going to be a walk-on at USC next year.
That's awesome.
And so I've had two. I've been very fortunate, very blessed. God's been great with me as far as getting the players and the finances and putting everything together. But without those guys, Stan Castleton helping start it off when we first started. Those three guys have been the biggest influence as far as sponsorship and donations, very giving people. We certainly couldn't do it without them.
Yeah, I used to live in Palisades and coach at Palisades, so I'd run into Brian all the time. I remember young Spencer working out with Mike Sutton in the girls' gym on the far court when he was a young man, getting shots up, working on those floaters, and just developing. I've always been a big fan of his, Spencer Friedman, big-time fan of his.
Yeah, he played with us for 2.5 years on our number one team. And everything, playing at Harvard now. Got a couple years left because of the virus. Has a couple years left. Real good player. Ended up being CIF Player of the Year his senior year. They beat Sierra Canyon in the championship at the Long Beach State that year. But because of those giving parents and financially supporting the program, Stan Castleton, Brian Freeman, and Barry Brooker. Yeah, that's why we can do what we can do. Because, like I said, we're with the shoe companies, Chris. Real quickly, to the highest level anybody's ever been.
Yeah.
And I've been with Nike for over 12 years. I was Reebok for over 6, and Adidas for 8. And we're the highest sponsored program that they've ever had in all three companies. And when the shoe money went south a little bit, started their own leagues and different things. I wasn't going to do it for nickels on a dollar. So I just started doing it myself. I run a fundraising golf tournament, and I've been blessed with individuals like Brian and Barry to sponsor the team, where we didn't have to worry about where our next dollar's coming from, or our next meal's coming from, or whoever can pay the entry fee. So that's why we continue what we're doing now. And because of that, we've had 5 pros over the last 5 years without a shoe sponsor.
That's amazing. That's amazing stuff. And thank goodness for them, because without them, you wouldn't be able to do. I'd say this: you're gonna find a way, PB, but it helps. You're gonna find a way, PB, but it helps to have them guys coming in, right?
It helps tremendously in financially, and you couldn't do it without them. Yeah. You have to do more fundraising and different things. Like I said, now, and I tell you, I still have friends at Nike that send me shoes, and Atope from Compton Magic's been great with me. He gives me shoes and sweats all the time, and he keeps on saying I got to keep the Godfather happy. And
he's a friend of the show.
Yeah, he gears me up, and Atope's been very respectful and
absolutely
been very, very helpful, and kind of the torch has kind of been handed off to him when I get done. That he's having a good run right now with his sponsorship and
Very good.
he's had, but they couldn't match our 3 teams that we had.
No, but hey, we got to start that talk. That 2000, he's talking that 2018 stuff. I don't know, Tope.
You coach with the Pumps, I know for years, and Dana David, we were in the American Sports Center, and we're in the office one day, and Dana takes out a pad and goes, "Okay, Barrett, because I've had more pros than you've had." And I said, "Really?" I said, well, let's write them down. Started writing them down, and he stopped writing down when I lapped him. In the paper, I doubled what he had.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, "I didn't know you had him."
See?
I didn't know you had him. And dang. And so the Pumps and I were going at it. And I love the Pumps. The Pumps are great guys. I like them a lot. But I remember sitting down with them for about an hour comparing notes.
Yeah.
They stopped writing them because we were killing them.
That is not surprising. PB, last question, I'll let you go. When you look back on your career over the last 42 years, what moment or moments are you most proud of?
Probably, having the relationship with some of the players that I still talk to, on a daily and weekly basis, some of the players. And also too, Chris, is I'm coaching a lot of these players' sons.
Yeah.
So not only did the players go through the program, their sons have gone through the program.
Sure.
And coaching their sons, it shows a lot of respect, and it's a joy coaching them and then coaching their sons also. And again, the people who've been around me is why it gets done. I mean, I can't do this by myself. No one has got too big and too broad and too many players and all this stuff. But like I said, my right-hand man, Kenny Story, and the coaches I've had, the college coaches, and they're coaching right now, got their jump start in college, coaching now, and a lot of the coaches I have now, it's just been it's been great. So it's just looking back, coaching their sons and having a relationship with the players I still have today, is kind of the most rewarding thing.
Well, PB, have a lot of respect for you and everything that you've meant to the game. I grew up looking up to you, and just, you're such a legend to me. And I just really, truly appreciate you coming on the show and giving us an hour of your time, my man. It's been really, really, really real today. This has been a great convo.
I don't do too many interviews over the years, and I'm only doing it because of you. I've known you and your dad. Your dad's been great over the years. I used to watch him. I was a big UCLA buff back in the years of the
Wooden era.
Wooden era. A lot of my friends went there. Mark Eaton, Swin Nader, old time names. Rick Bozeman there to follow. Kevin Love, DeJohn Thompson. So I've had a lot of Baron Davis. So I've had a lot of players going to UCLA. So, but I've known your dad for a long time, very respectful. And anytime that you ask, I had no problem doing it. Usually I don't get into too much, but for you, I'll do that.
And the last thing I'm going to tell you, I'm going to let you go. When you hooked up, I called you a few years ago. I had a player, and you knew him a little bit, this and that. But you said you were just like, okay, I'll fly him out, Chris. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about anything. We got it. What's his name? Tell him to go here. And that, I was just like blown away because he didn't have anywhere to play. His dad had been hitting me up, PB. I don't know if you remember that, but thank you for that. That meant a lot to me that you accepted that guy in on your team just off of me making a phone call. And that is the essence of Pat Barrett, always trying to help a kid, no matter what. PB, thank you so much, my man.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Pat Barrett. We'll talk soon.